Hi, if you've joined me, thank you very much. So today we're going to look at roofs in Vectorworks. Now this is one that I've been playing with. This is the one I used for the advertisement to get started with. And I thought it was a good one to have a look at, or a good one to start the presentation with. You can see it's got quite a lot going on. I've got roofs at different heights. If we turn it around and have a look, we've got a lower roof here. We've got the roofs joined together at this point. We've got gables, we've got a dormer window, we've got a skylight. So at the end, I'm hoping that we'll get to the point where we can cover all of these parts. So we're going to start with something simple, and we're going to work our way through it. So if I start with just having a look at this one here, I want to put a roof on this area here. Now the easiest way to put a roof on here is to select all the walls and to create a roof. So I'll use my select similar. This is a great use of the select similar tool. I've already got some saved here. I've got some saved like a wall style, object, object in class. Object in class does so much of what I need. It picks up the walls on the right class. And so the first thing I'm going to do is to create my wall. The first thing I'll do is create my roof based on the walls. So let's go to AEC. Now this works whether you've got architect, landmark, or even fundamentals. So AEC, and I'm going to create roof. Here it is here, my create roof command. If you want to, and you do a lot of roofing, you could add this create roof command to your right mouse click, and that would save you having to look for it. So what do we want? Do we want to have a double eave to that? Do we want to have a square eave, which I sometimes like, but we don't use it very often in practice. The vertical is the one we use most often in practice. And we have the horizontal, which I've never found a good use for. So we've got a thickness here. So this is about 6 inches at the moment. It really depends on your roof construction, but you can use additive numbers in Vectorworks. So you could say, well, I've got 20 millimeters for the top, plus I've got 75 for the purlins, plus I've got 150 for my rafters. And that'll add that all up for you. You can have a bearing inset here, which is based on the thickness of your wall, really. So my walls are 150, so it'll mean that the underside of my roof should hit the very top of my wall here. Now, if you don't do the bearing inset here, you will end up with your roof hitting the outside corner of your wall, and you'll have a gap in between. Vectorworks doesn't cut the wall off to match the roof yet. I'm hoping at some point they will, but at the moment they don't. So the bearing inset, we've talked about the roof pitch. I'm going to make that 25 degrees. Now, if you want to make the roof pitch calculated, you can do that. Or if you want to make the eave height calculated, you can do that. So the roof pitch can either be typed in like that, or if you wanted one. Now, where I live, we often give the roof pitch in degrees. But you can also type in 1 in 3, which is reasonably steep roof. And bearing height here. Now the bearing height's been measured from the wall height. So Vectorworks does a bit of the work for you. It measures the wall height and it says that's the height of your walls. Now, the other way to create a roof is to create a polygon and use the polygon to draw the walls to create the roof, and we'll do that in a minute. But when you do that, it doesn't read the bearing height because it's reading a polygon and it has no height that you need. So let's have a look. So we got the bearing height here, 3 meters. We got the roof overhang or the eave overhang. Where I live, it's really common to have 24 inches or 600 millimeters. We now have a hole cut, so if we put in a skylight or we do a clip surface, do we want that to be vertical, splayed, or square? So vertical would be like this one here. Splayed would actually create a more open area into that skylight. And hole cut. And square would be like the square perpendicular to the roof slope. So what layer do we want? Do we want to put this on our roof layer, or do we want to put that on the same layer as our walls? I'm going to start by putting it on the same layer as my walls, because I want to describe, we've put in the bearing height here, and I want to talk about the height that we put our layer at. But if we've got a roof layer, how do we determine the elevation of our roof layer? Style, I don't have a styled roof, but we can use roof styles. This has already got information. These are just standard ones from Vectorworks. You might have a library with some in it. This is my corrugated roof, and my template file's got none. So I'm not going to use a style. And my roof preferences here, I can actually add components. So I could, if I want to, add components to this. So my first component is solid. It's got a gray color maybe. It's got a thick line. There it is there. And this is, so let's go through and actually create a style. So this is my profiled metal roofing. So this is my metal roofing. What's its function? It's outer finish. It's class. So you can actually put these on different classes if you wanted to. What have we got here? We haven't got that many classes. I'm going to create a new class. Now, if you had a list of classes or a file with classes, you could choose that. So let's just find, I just need to find my file. Where's it gone? So I need to go back to 2025 courses. Vectorworks for, I've got a course here for domestic design. It's got a bunch of resource files in it. Let's have a look. So here's my list here. So this is from one of my courses, and I've got here one called ArchonCAD Standard. So this is a small file, and it keeps a track of all of the classes I'm likely to use. And you can see there's quite a few of them. So I'm going to look for roof. I'm just going to type RO, and now I've got a bunch of them. Look, so I've got all my component parts here. Cladding, yeah, so that'll be cool. So now what we'll find is, we'll just okay that. So now you'll find that my class can be roof component and cladding. What's my material? We can look up our material here. Corrugated metal, Vectorworks has a material for that. That's cool. The thickness of that's only 20 millimeters, or just under an inch. And it's associated with, when we can associate this with the roof edge or the roof access line or some other part. So this is going out to the edge of the roof. That's great. So we'll just leave that alone. And then I can create another one where I'm actually sitting on top of that. So now we can look on creating our purlins. These are my purlins. What's their function? Their function is load bearing. What class do we want those on? Wall, component, purlins. I've already got a class for that. This is timber. And I think I've got a timber. I'll just use one of these timber ones. The thickness of this is 75. And its bounding is going out to the edge of the roof. Then I want to have another one, which will be my rafters. Even if these are a truss roof, which is common where I live, I'm still going to call it rafters because I don't want to call it a truss. It could be confusing. Its class is structure, so it's roof, ceiling, rafters. I got rafters for that. We use the same material that we used before, so we got that material, and the thickness I made at 150 before, and it's also bound to the roof edge. Now I could go ahead and make ceilings, and if I made a ceiling, I could actually make that ceiling stop at the outer face of the wall, the inner face of the wall, or the outer face of the wall, inner wall component, or the inner. And so there's a lot of things you could do with that to create a complex roof that did what you want. So I'm just going to leave it at those parts. And our insertion options here, this is our exterior roof. The class is going to be roof main, so whenever I use the style or these preferences, it's going to put that on a specific class for me. I can also then have, so we've done our roof preferences, we can also create accessories like an attic, and it'll put a space in based on certain parameters. So if we look at our attic settings, we can say how high we want this to be. We can also have soffits or soffits if you prefer, and we can tell Vectorworks what size those are. I'm not going to put those in at the moment. And we can also put on fascias. I've actually got a much better way of putting on a fascia. I don't like these ones. They're not as complex as they should be. And I've made movies before where I've shown how you can use something like the railing tool to create a really good fascia, because it can create the correct size, and it can also put the gutter on for you as well, and you can just drop it onto your roof. Works really well. Okay, so those are the accessories. We're not going to create any of those. Don't forget to retain the original object. Now, it might sound silly to repeat that, but the number of times I've forgotten to turn that off, or I've forgotten to turn it on, because when we use the polygon, we often want to turn that off, and then you create from walls, you lose all your walls. So just make sure you check that. It's a good idea to start at the top and work methodically through and just check all of those. And there's my roof. I've put on the roof. I've actually put it on the wrong roof area, haven't I? Let's move that to the right place. So actually, I wanted it to, I'd forgotten that I was working on different files, So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a trick which I discovered the other day. I should have known this, but I just realized the other day that I've got this roof selected. I can go right click and say assign to selection, and it'll move that roof to that layer. So you can see I've got quite a dark roof. That's because of the options that I chose. And there's my roof, and it's actually, the walls are coming through my roof because of the height that I've chosen. And if we go back to our roof and we go back through the components, we'll see that I've actually got here the datum for this roof is no longer the underside of it, it's the top, it's the underside of that top. But what I really want is I want that to be the underside of my rafters, and that roof should jump up. Let's go back through that again. So components, yeah, that should have done the job, but now you'll notice the bearing inset's changed. So let's just have a check of that. So that's my roof, that's my bearing inset, there's my thickness. Let's click on one of these and we'll check the elevation. And the elevation is no longer 3 meters. So I'm going to make it 3 meters. Now when I did that, it only changed the roof of that end. Let's change the entire roof. So there we are, we've got our roof. And if I change the classes or I change the graphic style, I can make that roof brighter or white if I want. So that's the first part, is that you can just use the walls to create that roof. Now the next part that you can do is you can start saying, okay, well, let's have a look at this end here. I've clicked on that blue handle. It's this blue handle right here that you click on. And you can click on any of these blue handles and it will open that dialog box. So what do we want? This roof, I'd like this one to be a gable. And I want the gable overhang to be less, 18 inches, 450. So I've now got a gable, but now my wall doesn't go inside this area. So there's a couple of choices. One of the things you can do is you can show the wall. Let's give a wall thickness, and it's normally the same as thickness as the roof to start with. So this is 150, 6 inches to match the wall below. And you can see Vectorworks has added just in here, Vectorworks has added a little wall for you. But the wall has a different texture to the wall below. So let's turn off the show wall. The other option we've got is to select this wall, go to AEC on the menu bar, choose fit walls to objects, or sorry, it's fit roofs to, yeah, fit walls to objects. It used to be called fit walls to roof, but it's fit walls to, and it can be any 3D shape. And I want it to fit to the roof on start floor 1. Okay, and you can see now it's measured the angle of this roof and it's projected that wall up into that roof. That's pretty cool. So can we do it to the other roofs? Sure, we should do these all at once. So let's make that a gable. We'll make this one down here a gable. And there we are. So then we select all of our walls. AEC, fit walls to objects. Start floor 1. Yes, that's the right one. And you can see it now fits all those walls to that roof. Now, this may not be your roof design that you're intending. Let's say, for example, we wanted this roof to carry on right through here. If I go back to a top plan view and select my roof, I can't pull these parts away. Now, I could change these, and I could say, I want that to be a gable end. And I want this one to be a gable end. And now it says I can't make it. It's too complex. And what you do at this point is you just carry on. So I want that one to be a gable end as well. And so now I've got my roof like that with a little cutout. But it's still not what I want. I wanted that roof to go right through. So, how do we fix it? I'm going to use the reshape tool. Now just keep your eye on those blue handles, because those blue handles are at the center of each roof plane. So, reshape tool. Minus sign. Now, just before I start, notice that I've now got, instead of just having a blue handle at the center, I've got a blue handle at that corner, one in the center, then on this corner, one in the center, this corner. So I've deleted a couple of those handles, and now I've got the roof that I wanted. Now my roof goes right through here. So that's the other thing to remember about the roof, is that it's now actually controlled by that polyline, what's known as the axis line, and you can manipulate it. Do you want to add an extra piece of roof? We could add an extra piece of roof here. And so now I've got a piece of roof that didn't think it was going to be there. So if you want to, you can, I'm just going to undo those. So if you want to, you can add extra bits. Now if you wanted this roof to project out here, then you can get your reshape tool, get your move, and you can just move that roof out, and it'll drag that roof out, and you've now got a revised roof. Needs a couple of columns, of course, but there you are. Let's put that all back. Okay, so let's think about this. We've got here a roof. We want to put this roof on a different layer. What layer height should we put that roof? What layer height should we, what elevation should we set that layer to make sure that my roof sits here the way that it does? Now, a lot of people, when they create a roof layer, will create a roof layer at the elevation of the top of the wall. So quite often people will go to here, let's create a new roof, let's go here, layer, let's create a new design layer, let's call it, what's this called, start floor 1. Oh, there's one there already called start roof 2. So let's put it on there, let's go start roof 2. Start roof 1, sorry, there it is there. Now let's have a look. So there it is, that's good. I've got those both, I can turn them both on and I can see them and they fit together perfectly. But let's have a look at the settings for this roof. So you can see that my elevation for this here, so this is the elevation of my layer, the elevation is set at 0. Now the reason I've set that elevation at 0 is because I always set my roof elevation to the same elevation as the walls supporting that roof. Now, some people would set this elevation to 3 meters and then set all of these to 0, entire roof. So now it looks okay. But when I click on this roof to see how high is that roof, what's its pitch line, what's its starting elevation for that roof, I go, oh, it's 0. Okay, well then I need to go back and I need to then go, well, what elevation is it? Let's set it that. Oh, that's at 3 meters. Okay, so that roof's at 3 meters. Now that's easy enough to keep track of when everything's the same. But if you start having, back to my selection tool. if you start dropping one of these roofs down, minus 200, which is what you can do. So what's the elevation of this? Now I've got to do some mental arithmetic. The elevation of that is now 3 meters or 10 feet minus 2 inches. Well, to me that's just awkward. Why not just have those? And I'm going to go back to there. I think that's correct still. Okay, so why not just have that at 2800 and just have each roof so that you don't have to think about it too much. You go, okay, what's the elevation of that one? What's the pitch line of that one? Oh, that's 10 feet. What's this one here? It's 9 feet 8 inches or something. So to me, this is the easy way to do it. To have the elevation of this layer at the same elevation as the roof, as the walls that are supporting it. Okay, so I'm going to put that back. So that was 10 feet or 3 meters. Cool. Now let's have a look at floor 2. So floor 2 is the floor above floor 1. So you can see I've got a funny little design here. I've got, a downstairs and an upstairs. Before we do that, let's go back to start floor 1. Okay. Let's delete this roof. I want to show you another way of creating that roof. So let's go back to a plan view. We're going to go start floor 1. So the other way to create a roof is to use a roof by polygon. So select all our walls, or use this tool up here again. Some people call this the magic wand. It's the select similar tool. So click, and you can see I've got all my walls selected. Now what I really need to do is to trace a polygon around here. I'm being a bit lazy here, so AEC, create polys from walls, gross area poly, and it does that for me. Double click to get my reshape tool, and I want to get rid of that corner, that one, and that one, and that one. Don't forget to get rid of those, it'll make it so much easier. AEC, create roof. I think it's on my right click anyway. Create roof. I've added it to my right mouse click. Create roof. This is vertical. The bearing height. You notice this time the bearing height didn't pick up our height. So what did we say it was? 10 feet or 3 meters. 24 inches overhang. Cool. And it's going to go on start roof 1. And this is the one where I go, no, I don't want to retain the original. Let's get rid of that. And so you can see it's created the roof I wanted. I just need to then go and put the gable ends in. If you want to get quicker at this, then on a Macintosh it's the Command G key. On a Windows machine it's Alt G, and that'll be a quick way of getting that to be a gable. So I've got my gable roof. Now we go to start floor 2. Here it is here. We go back to a plan view. We can just trace this with a rectangle. We don't need to do the create from walls. There we are. Let's go right click, and we're going to did I get the right click on it? Yeah, there we are. So let's create the roof. We're not going to retain the original objects. The bearing height is going to be 10 feet again. Eve overhang, and it's going on start roof 2. So that's a gable. This one's a gable as well. Just clicking on each end to make the gable. Okay, so we should have that correct. And then let's turn that on. Turn on my roof, my floor. Turn on my other roof. And there we are. So now I've got my complete building. But you'll notice that my walls are not meeting the right parts. So let's go back to start floor 1. We'll select all the walls. And I'll do the AEC. Now what have I got? Show snap modify others. I want to go show snap others. So I've got all my walls selected. AEC, fit walls to objects. This is start roof 1. Start floor 1, start roof 1. Okay. Now let's go to start floor 2. Click on those walls. AEC, fit walls to objects. Now you can't do these all together. You can't do it all at once. You've got to do it bit at a time. Fit walls to objects. This is going start roof 2. Cool. So now I've got pretty much what I wanted, except you can see that my downstairs roof is running right through my building. So I'm going to have to fix that. Let's turn off the roof for there. Let's turn off the walls there. And so I can just see those two parts. I'm going to draw another rectangle. I'm going to go to start roof number 1. I'm going to trace over my existing upper floor. Now what I want to do is I want to make that a hole. I mean, that's the size of the hole that needs to go through my roof. So select the roof, select the polygon, right click, clip surface, and then delete. And now I've got a hole in my roof. So now when I put all those together, so I've got my start floor 1, start floor 2, roof 2. Let's just leave the roof off for a second. You can see I've got the perfect joint. So that's the way that I can make my roof fit exactly to my building. So this is a cool trick really, this idea that you can just punch a hole using the clip surface. And it's going to lead us the ability to create some other really cool stuff. So there's no questions yet. If you've got a question, don't forget to drop me something in the chat area. And if you do, great, I'll see if I can answer it. So that should give us a good start. We've learned a lot of techniques about that. So let's just have a look. We had start floor 2. Let's have a look at the settings for this. So when we look at the settings for this, this starts at 10 feet or 3 meters above. So what elevation should I put my layer to support the layer for the roof? So I put the elevation of that roof layer at the same elevation as the walls supporting it. So let's go to Tools, Organization, Design Layers. So start floor 1, that's at 0. Start roof 1's at 0, start floor's at 0, start floor 2 is at 3 meters or 10 feet, and start roof 2 is also at that same elevation, 10 feet. All right, no questions, so we're going to move on to the next part, which is let's have a look at this one. So we've got a more complex shape this time. We can use the same techniques. We're going to do that with the same techniques, except we've discovered that this part of the building here, the roof is at a different pitch. So how are we going to do that? So we're going to trace over that part of the building and this part of the building. Select those two, and we're going to add surface. And then there's another part here. So this part of the building here has the roof at a different elevation and at a different pitch. So we can make this roof first. So we're going to right click. We're going to create a roof. Create roof. There we are. Vertical, blah, 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 blah. Everything's the same, except I'm going to change this to 30 degrees. Cool. So I got my roof. Eurogable. If you've forgotten, I'm using my keyboard shortcut. So we've got that. So we've got that roof. This one is a slightly different roof. So let's go right click. Let's create the roof. This one's at 25 degrees. It's also at a different elevation. Let's make this one at 8 feet. And this one should have been at 10 feet. And I just forgot to do it. So let's go cancel. Let's go click here. The elevation should have been 10 feet. Now you notice it doesn't work very well when I do that. So what I should have done was click entire roof, and then the entire roof gets lifted up. So that's a gable, and this one's a gable. Now I'm going to find it a bit tricky with this dark color because I'm not going to see things the way that I wanted to. So I'm going to see if I can change all of those to a white color. It makes it easier for me. In particular, I'm going to change some of the lines here. I want these to be red and these to be blue. So now you can see I've got a red roof and a blue roof. And I need to know where these intersect each other, because this is at a different angle. This is also at a different height. How do I figure that out? Because it's quite, sure, you can use mathematics, but to me, that's the hard way. I've got a real easy way to do this. If we select those two and we go up to modify, now I'm in a top plane view, and this is a trick I've used so many times since I discovered it. So I'm in a top plane view, I go modify, I've got my two roofs selected, I go modify, convert, copy to lines. Now make sure you choose copy, don't convert to lines, you'll lose your roof. But what it does is it actually thinks about it from above and calculates where one line, where one roof plane intersects the other. I'm going to use hidden line rendering, and that's what I've got. So let's go inside that group and we'll find out what's going on there. So I can just double click on that group. So you can see it's traced the blue roof around, and then it said, well, at this point the blue roof is above the red one until it gets to that point there, and then it says from here on this red roof is now higher than the blue roof. Okay, let's get rid of that. Let's change this to make them both the same. Let's make that one, what did we make this before? 10 feet. I should have done all roof again, entire roof again, 10 feet. So now let's do it again. Select both roofs, modify, convert, copy to lines, hidden line rendering. That's fantastic. Okay, so let's now double click. There's our group, and you can see it's calculated because of the, even though these are both at the same starting point, there's actually an intersection here, and it's calculated the roof. That's not 45 degrees. If those were both at the same elevation, the same angle, that would be a 45-degree line. Now what I need to do is I need to figure out a shape that follows that I can use to cut out the big roof. Now the easy way to do this is to use the polygon tool with the inner boundary mode, or sometimes people call it the paint pot mode. Click and shift click. Click. And so now I've got the two parts I need. I've got that part and this part. Copy those and then exit the group. Throw away the group so we don't need them. But we need to paste, in a specific way so that it arrives exactly at the right location, which is this one here, paste in place. If I select that polygon and my main roof, so shift click on the main roof, then I can right click and choose clip surface. Now we did clip surface before to make a hole in the roof. Now we're doing the same thing just to cut away a corner of that roof. So let's have a look. You can't see very well yet. Let's carry on. So we've now got this polygon and that roof. Right click and clip surface. Throw that away. Now it's actually left this bit behind. You can see this bit's been left behind here. So what I should have done was to make sure that this polygon here went all the way through. So let's go and edit that polygon. Got my polygon editing. We're going to offset it that way, and we're going to make it go all the way down. Now let's do it. So select that roof, that polygon, select that polygon, select that roof. Oh, they are selected. Okay. Right click, and we're going to go clip surface and throw that one away. Now, how well did I get on? If I put these onto start roof 3, assign to selection. Okay, let's have a look. So how did I get on? Did I get those roofs to touch and join together correctly? And it looks pretty good to me. I think it's calculated pretty well how those two roofs join together. Let's go back to floor, this one. So now we're going to select all of our walls. AEC, we're going to go and choose fit walls to objects, and it's not start roof 2, it's start roof 3. And there we are. So now I've got those walls. Those walls are now joined to my roof. Let's turn on the roof, and bingo. So if you've got any questions about that, don't forget to leave me a chat, and I can see if I can answer your questions. So to me, that's a really cool way to do it. So we've learned a couple of new tricks now. So we've learned how to join two roofs together. We've learned how to clip a hole in a roof. So if you want to create a skylight, an easy, really lazy, easy way to do it is to use just draw a polygon, a rectangle, a polygon, or a circle, and just use clip surface. And if you don't believe me, let's just put in a tiny little skylight. Now this won't put in, when we do this, what it's not going to do is to put in a three-dimensional shape that allows us to see an actual skylight. So we've got that selected, that's on start roof 3. We've got our roof selected, right click, clip surface, let's throw that away. And I should have got a roof in there, let's do that again. I should have got a hole, so let's do that again. I'm on the correct, right, let's try that. Gonna draw a little circle, gonna select my roof as well, clip surface, throw away the circle, and I'm left with a hole in the roof. So that's the same technique really to make that hole as we used to cut out those portions of the roof, and it's the same thing that we've done to do the hole in the whole, you know, to cutting out the entire upper floor. Okay, so what else do we want to do? Let's get rid of those, and let's go to floor 1. So this is a more complex roof. So let me show you what the roof looks like when it's finished. So this is the roof we need to do. We want our roof to be that shape, but our walls are not following that. You can see our walls are doing that. Now, I've already done my clip surface, and I've already done my fit walls to objects. So I've done a lot of work here. So I'm going to get rid of that roof. I'm going to throw that roof away, and this one as well. And then we're going to go to our floor. You can see all my walls are already been stretched up. How do we stop that? We can go back to our select similar tool, select all of those, and you can undo your wall peaks by going delete wall peaks. So this will put peaks in the walls to follow the roof slope, and this one will get rid of them all. So I'm going to remove the top and bottom peaks, and it goes back to the way it was. Okay, so I need to create the roof. Now there were actually two roofs here. This was a large hipped steep roof, and this was a mono pitch or a single pitch roof that joined into it. So I'm going to do them a bit at a time. So let's go AEC, let's go create roof, and it should create a roof based on those walls. My roof pitch is about 30 degrees. It's quite steep. It's about 10 feet high. Let's go OK, and it creates that for me. So I'm just going to select that. Let's make that white so it's easier for you to see it. Now you can see it's gone around putting a hip or putting a point everywhere that it thinks it needs to have something like that roof junction. But this part of the roof here needs to project down, and this part of the roof here needs to project across. So let's go back to our reshape tool. We're going to project this side across, so we don't need that point. Let's go and change our reshape tool. Select that again, reshape tool minus. So we don't need that one. We don't need that one. We don't need that one. Don't need that one. Now Vectorworks is saying it can't figure things out. Okay, I think I've got the right. I think I've got it right. So now I'm going to use my project, or the move point. I want to be in line with that point there. And it's now created that much. I can make that one into a gable. this one doesn't seem to be the same sort of nice gable that we had up there. So what am I going to do? Back to my reshape tool. I need to manipulate this area here to get the shape that I want. And what I want to do is to move some of these points here. So move that point so it lines up with this one here. Move this one so it lines up as well. So I'm just touching that point, get those to line up. Now this is just a little bit ugly in here, so we're going to use our reshape tool again. We're going to get rid of, we're going to move this corner up to line up with that corner there, and then get rid of some of the ones that we don't want. So we don't want that one. It looks so much nicer. And I'm going to move across, because when we looked at the photographs, we realized that this one here actually lined up with that point there, and that one doesn't exist. So now I've manipulated that and got it to be much nicer to do what I want. I just need to make that one a gable. And let's have a look here. So click there. So these were quite high. These were this was an old villa, so it was about 12 foot high. 12 foot high. And you can see I didn't do all roofs, so let's do entire roof. So the whole thing's at that elevation. So then when we go back to our photographs, we realize that although most of the roof is at that height, some of these ones were quite a bit lower. So let's make that one 10 feet. And this one was 10 feet. And so that's what it's done to my roof. And so Vectorworks will do some of that for you. This is a little bit awkward down that end. It's just the way it turned out. But it does this trick of dropping that part of the roof down so you can actually make most of the roofs that you want. Now, it doesn't make every roof that you want, and if we get time, we'll have a look at some of the other things that I can do. But you can see it's pretty flexible. So I'm going to put those back, put them back anyway. So they're at that height. My columns need to go up, and if we have a look at our walls, now let's go back. Now my walls have vanished. Why did my walls vanish? So if we go back to the creation of that roof, I skipped over something. Oh, can't do it anymore. Right, so when I created my walls, let me show you what I did wrong. Select the walls, AEC, we're going to create roof, not enough objects. I need to have more of those objects. I forgot, so let's just draw the polygon. Create roof. So what mistake did I make? It's this one here that I warned you about, where I forgot to turn that back on. Having had it turned off for such a long time, I forgot to turn it back on again. So I've lost my walls, but that's okay. File, revert to saved. Now, sometimes when I make a mistake with the file, I go undo. You saw me going through my undos, but I didn't have enough undos to go back far enough. I think I've only got 20 or 25 undos. I think it's under session. There it is. A maximum of 100. I've got 30 undos, so I got more than the default, but it still wasn't enough. So sometimes what I do when I'm working on a project, I'll say, look, I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure if this project's heading in the right direction, so I'll do a save. And then if I make a mistake, I can go revert to saved, and it'll take me back to the last saved copy of that file. So this one's got all my roofs done, and it's got my skylights in and everything. So let's get rid of the skylight. I'm just going to remove that object. I'm going to remove this one as well. And let's have a look. So in this case here, I haven't got all my walls fitting here. Let's just check that. It's on roof 1, so I can select all my walls. And they're on floor 1, so we've got our walls selected. I'm going to show snap modify others. Just a little bit dangerous if you're not sure about it. We're going to go to AEC, fit walls to objects, fit walls to objects on one roof. Where's that? Is that? It's on one roof. That's on one roof. To snap others, yeah, okay, so let's do that again. Select my walls on floor 1. Fit walls to objects, 1 roof. Oh, what's that? Oh, that start floor, that's a completely different one. Okay, so there we are. So I've got everything back. I've got my columns the right length now. I've got my roof where I want it. And now what I'd like to do is I'd like to put a skylight in. I do the skylights, I tend to do them in plain view because I find them easier that way. I need my resource manager. I need to find a Velux window. Here's one that I've imported already. And you don't select the roof first. The only way to insert these is to drag them from the resource manager. You drag them to that roof. Now I need to have that roof as the active layer. Drag that, and you can see it highlights. Drag that, pop it in there. Now the first thing it does is to become a dormer window. When we select that roof, you'll notice that I've got my blue handles at the center of each roof face. Here, here. And there's also one here where my dormer window is, at the bottom center of my dormer window. If I click Edit Skylight, that's now a skylight. Now I can't drag that skylight around, but what I can do is I can change the offset. So offset from building corner, it's probably measured from this corner here. The offset from the building line, I want that to be about 5 feet, 1500 millimeters, and you can see it's dropped down the roof and it's there. If we turn on our floor below, you can see that it's not quite, oh yes, is it? It's just in that room. So let's have a look. So what I tend to do is I tend to measure this location from the edge of the roof and to see, you know, what my dimension is. So let's use my dimension tool. So from the center of there to that corner, what do we got? 7976. So if I click here to edit that roof, you can see it's not 7976. So it's actually measured from this corner here to that point, 2815. I really want that to be less, and I can calculate, let's say for example I wanted the center to be here, 2131, then I can go back to here and I can go, okay, so that should be 2131. And so now it's in the right location. So this dimension isn't from the face of the roof, it's from the setting out point of the roof. So I've now got that where I want. It's now a skylight. And if I go inside that room, the light will be coming through. So let's try doing this in 3D. Let's drag that onto the roof. You can see it does work, but you don't know where you're placing it. So let's go back to a top plane view. Right, there we are, top plane view. Let's grab that skylight and drop it on here. Now I'm using the skylight just because it's easy. Let's drop it there. And you can see it's become a skylight again because the last time I put one in, it was a skylight. So let's edit that as a dormer window. The height is 5 feet. And so Vectorworks is trying to calculate how to put this roof in, and it's projecting here, and you can see there's a really poor flashing at the top. Now we've still got the same issues here, or the same technique here. We've got that blue dot. We click on that blue dot. So what do we want to know about this? The offset from the building line, that wanted to be back by 1500. We want the offset from the corner. We can measure that again if we want. Now the roof was 30 degrees, I think, so I put that back in. And the overall width of that was about 4 feet, 1200. We've got the height. We can make it a little bit less, make it 1200. And the overhang. And it will put walls around for you. So you can see Vectorworks has put the walls around. And let's go back to that. I think that roof is just a wee bit thin. Where's my roof thickness? Dormer settings here. So my wall thickness, that should be 6 inches thick. The roof thickness should be about the same. And so I've now changed that. So I've got the thickness that I want. And so we've got the dormer, we've got the skylight. And I think that's everything. So the back here, I made this a mono pitch. I haven't shown you how to do that, so let's do that. So I've got here a series of walls. Let's have a look. So we've got a bunch of walls in here. And I'm going to make that a roof. AEC, create roof. It's got a vertical edge. It's not the same elevation. It's only about 8 feet, so 2400. Eve overhang, quite a bit less. Let's make it 300. And okay. So it creates some of this for me. Now it's actually created points or ends of the wall that I don't want. So back to my reshape tool. I can use the minus sign. I can get rid of that point, that one. I get rid of that one. I think that gives me pretty much what I want. Let's go here and we're going to back to my selection tool. So this roof here is a gable with 0 overhang. We want that to be a gable. And this is where I start using the keyboard shortcut. We want that to be a gable. Now at some point Vectorworks is going to spit the dummy or tell me that it can't do this any longer, and I'm going to just carry on. Sometimes it doesn't do it, but every once in a while you get one that does, and that one needs to be a gable as well. And that's made my roof into a single pitch roof or a mono pitch roof. And here I can control the angle. Now this angle is it only needs to be 5 degrees. There it is there. And you can see I've actually pre-cut this roof out and it fits in really well. But the technique I use to cut the roof out is the same as I've done before. The convert copy to lines using the clip surface and that kind of thing. And you can see I've made exactly the same mistake again, and I've deleted my walls. I'm not going to worry about that. We're nearly at the end of today's session, so I'm not going to worry about it. I've covered almost everything that I wanted to cover today. So I wanted to cover things like creating the roof, how we create certain things, how we set the layer elevations. So I hope I've covered those things that you really wanted. No one's really asked a question, so there's nothing really to do. So the only other thing I was going to say is that I've covered this stuff fairly quickly. There's still a lot more that I could cover. I've got, where's that gone? This one. So this is my community. So this is my, I really think you should join. There's a lot of us here now. It's really these are all the courses that I've created. So I've just uploaded a new course yesterday called Dealing with Roofs, and it's got all of my roof techniques in it. So like, how do we create roofs? How do we create hips from gables? Troubleshooting, creating roof with cutouts, creating barge boards, roofs accessories, mastering complex roofs. There's a whole lot of stuff. This should look familiar to you. So there's a whole lot of stuff here in this course. So that's a new course I've just posted yesterday on creating roofs. So if you're not already a member, I think you should become a member. It's a really vibrant community now. There's lots of stuff happening and I'm getting loads of suggestions. And as I get suggestions, I'm making more resources for the community. If you got any ideas for what we should cover next week for YouTube Live, let me know. I'm thinking about doing customizing Vectorworks, doing things like creating little utilities that will do things for you. I've got a bunch of them. I'm not talking about computer programming. I mean, that's a whole nother chapter because I do write some of my own scripts as well. Thank you for coming. I'm going to close the meeting. I really enjoyed having you here and I appreciate everyone who came along. So thank you very much.